Hello and welcome to your Daily 5 for the 21st of September. My name is Julius de Kempenaer and I'm presenting to you from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And today I'm hosting this episode of Your Daily 5. I'm a senior analyst here at StockCharts.com and the creator of relative rotation graphs. And of course, they play a crucial part in my approach to pick 5 interesting charts for you. You can find my contributions in the RRG blog on the site, as well as on StockCharts television, where I host Sector Spotlight every Tuesday from 10:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern. To kick off the top-down approach for my process to pick 5 names for you, we are starting at the RRG for US sectors. And the sector that has my interest today is the financial sector. That's XLF. You can see that it is inside the improving quadrant, coming out of lagging, and it's now traveling towards the leading quadrant at a strong RRG heading, meaning that it is picking up both relative strength on the horizontal JDK-RS ratio scale, as well as relative momentum on the vertical JDK-RS momentum scale. The next step is to look into that XLF sector and plot all the groups, all the industry groups that together make up the financial sector. And that's the RRG that we have here on the right. And you see the list of groups. There are quite a few, but there are 2 tails that I think are worth our time and interest. And the first one is clearly visible. That's the blue one inside the improving quadrant, moving towards leading at a strong heading. That is the Dow Jones US Banks Index. This one right here. That is moving in the right direction, gaining on both axes. And the second one is inside the weakening quadrant and starting to turn back up. That's the Dow Jones US Life Insurance Index, DJUSIL. And I'll zoom it in a little bit so you can see that better, and you can see that rotation through weakening and now curling back up, pointing towards the leading quadrant. And we know that that is usually a strong sign. It signals the second or the third or the fourth leg in an already existing uptrend. So the hunting ground for my stocks today are those 2 groups. And we move over to the left again, because here you have the RRG, the relative rotation graph, that plots the banking stocks against the DJUSBK, the US Banks Index. So this allows me to pick the strongest banks within the banking industry group, which is strong within the financial sector. And there's no time to go over all these tails, but the few that stand out and that I want to look at the individual charts are MTB, M&T Bank Corp. You can see that strong rotation here on the right-hand side where it came out of leading, is traveling through weakening and is now already crossing back into leading again. And the second one is Regency Financial. You see a similar move there. You see the rotation from leading into weakening and now back into leading. So those stocks are basically starting a new leg in an already rising trend. And the last one in this banking group is Huntington Bank Shares, is making a similar rotation. It was already strong inside leading, traveled through weakening, and is now coming back into the leading quadrant. So those 3 banking shares are starting a new up leg in an already strong relative trend versus the banks index, which is strong versus the financials index. If we move to the life insurance group, then we have there's a little bit less names in that group, but the 2 that really stand out are PFG, Principal Financial Group, and you see how that has rotated. It didn't even hit the weakening quadrant. It moved right back up into leading. So we're going to look at that stock because it's a real strong rotation. And the second one in this group is Metlife. And here you see another one which traveled through leading, dropped into weakening and is now curling back up and starting a new up leg within the already rising trend. If we go to the individual names, I want to start with MTB, M&T Bank Corp. Let me bring up the RRG here and highlight MTB. You will note that I am using the unadjusted price series, so the underscore here for the analysis of the individual charts, because these stocks are heavily influenced by dividends and that distorts the historical levels. For the RRG, we prefer to have the adjusted total return series. Look at MTB, look at that relative trend moving higher and breaking to new highs right here, which is dragging the RRG lines back up. The price chart came out of that consolidation. It's now trying to overcome resistance between 190 and 195. When that happens, M&T is on the way up and will probably rise further. The relative strength is definitely very strong. We go to the second stock here, that's Regency Financial. We put it right here. You can see how that relative strength is traveling very nicely inside that rising channel that captures that rising trend in the ARS line. The one that I like here is the fact that it just came out of what seems to be a pretty big falling wedge pattern. And a falling wedge pattern traditionally is a bullish sign. If you want to peg a price target to it, you will get to 25 because that's where the wedge started. So at the minimum, based on this price pattern, we can expect Regency Financial to go back to 25 where it started that wedge. And the third and the final banking stock is Huntington Bank shares. You can see also here the relative strength really strong coming out of that consolidation. Let me highlight the tail right here. And a few weeks ago, it looked as if HBAN was completing a major top formation coming out of that consolidation, breaking below support around 13. It hesitated around 11.5. It's now back inside that range, and now that 13 level is acting as support. That is usually a strong sign. When you break and you get back into the range, very often you will see a continuation back to the top of the range, which would mean around 16.5 for HBAN. We move over to the life insurance group and pick the two stocks that I had selected. The first one is PFG, Principal Financial Group. And that's interesting because it is trying to break to new highs. The area of resistance is probably between 75, 76 and 80. But what's really strong is the relative strength line that's breaking to almost 3-year highs and pushing further upward, and that is pushing the tail for PFG deeper into the leading quadrant. A break beyond resistance at $80 would definitely be support in the back for further gains in PFG. And then finally, the last name for this show is Metlife, MET. Here also, the most important thing to note is the strength in relative strength. You can see that we're taking out a level that is in place since 2019 and looking to move higher. The RRG lines are curling back up. In terms of price, this line here I think is worth watching. That's providing support around 60, but more importantly, the overhead resistance around 68. When we can take that out, 72.5 is your next target, and beyond that, there is much more upside potential available. And that concludes your Daily 5 for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again at a future episode of Your Daily 5 here on StockCharts Television.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.